time to shuffle up. With Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan, let's fill our cups. Commander decks in hand, the battle's about to start. A podcast for the legends, where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold. With heroes and villains, new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way. In the world of EDH we play.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Commander's Pod once again. Thank you for joining us. My name is Duncan. I am joined by Sloan.
Hello.
And Jeff.
What's up?
And today we're going to talk about several things. We're going to talk about Foundations, the new set that's coming out. We're going to talk about an embarrassment of riches I had at the table. We're going to talk about meme cards like the SpongeBob Secret Lair. We're going to have some tips for players, and Jeff's going to complain a little bit. So, so let's talk about my embarrassment of riches. So when I sit at a table at MagicCon at the Command Zone or any place I go, I try and match my deck's power level to match what I'm playing against.
Right.
So the guys I was playing against were playing heavily modified precons, okay? But no zero-drop mana rocks, no instant win combos that are tutorable. They had some in there, but they weren't tutored.
Right.
So I tried to pick something equivalent value. So I picked my Eluge. I believe it's the Shoreless Sea, who's the 1 and 3 blue pip creature that says whenever he comes out or you attack, you put a flood counter on target land. It becomes an island in addition to its other types. For each flood counter on a land you control, your blue spells are reduced in cost by 1 blue or 1 colorless pip.
Okay.
So you can have all your spells be free.
Right.
You have enough. Okay. But so I'm like, this has none of the zero drops in it. It has Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, that type of stuff. I don't tutor in it. Seemed pretty fair.
Right.
And we're playing.
Maybe.
And I start getting counters on my stuff. And then I played a couple draw spells, and I have out several things which had given me no maximum hand size. So now I'm holding a good stack of cards in my hand, and at this point, I felt bad because I controlled the game 100%. I could wipe the board at will. I could bounce everything back to their hand. I could counter what they were doing. I could,
right.
So I tried to be fair with my counters and not counter everything, only counter things that were going to matter. But then eventually it would get to a point I'd have to bounce everything back to their hands or one person's hand. Like, I was apologizing. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. This is probably not very fun. We can just start a new one because I literally couldn't be stopped. I had too many counters. I had too much value. I could cast too many things.
Right, and their decks couldn't keep up.
They
no
couldn't
matter
keep
how
up.
they piloted
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is you need to count draw as basically tutors. Because when you draw 25 cards, you're basically tutoring.
Well, I was used to playing in our meta where I am countered a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so my stuff does not go off. So I've never had this deck go off like this. I've played it many times. It's never been this bad because somebody somewhere is saying, no. And they did even at one point try and get rid of my commander, but I still have all the
But
counters.
doesn't that
I
tell
get it
you-
right back out and my stuff's still free.
That doesn't tell you something if you're playing and everybody's targeting you and stopping
But
you.
that
Maybe
happens
the deck
whenever
is
I play.
powerful.
That happens whenever I play because the guys say that I'm.
I mean, I don't know.
strong
You
player.
have some decks where I don't really care about. Like, I'm not going to waste removal on it.
Right.
I mean, I mean, this might be a silly question to ask. Were any of them actually playing blue?
There was nobody was playing mono blue, and a couple of players had blue in their deck.
Okay.
And some of them did counter my stuff occasionally, but I could always counter their counter. It's just
It's a very good commander.
Well, think of it this way. Whenever you have someone that says, hey, you get to cast these spells for free, probably not pre-con level. I mean, I'm just saying.
It doesn't say free. It says
yes,
one.
it does. It basically says free. It says that because.
But I've had it before. So here's my thing. If I go to do my draw to refill my hand and you counter it, I'm sitting there with one card in my hand. It's probably a land. I can cast nothing for free because I don't have anything. So then I'm top decking. That's how the deck usually goes.
Yeah, but the problem is your mind has been just mushed with the people you play with. And the fact that you think that a commander that gets you to cast spells for free and you have unlimited hand size and crazy draw is considered a weak commander tells you how mushy
No,
your
it
brain
wasn't because
is.
they're weak. They were playing good commanders. You know
They're
what I mean?
playing precons
Yeah,
that
but
were
some of those
modified.
commanders, heavily modified.
That doesn't matter, dude.
Well,
were
no,
doing it-
that does matter.
It
If
does
they're
matter.
heavily modified precon, it matters what kind
but
of.
define heavily modified.
Yeah,
You mean they
that's
put
the
10
key.
cards in there? Did
No.
they put...
Like they basically rebuilt the deck around.
Okay,
them.
well then that's not even a precon anymore.
Yeah.
But again, this does give you an idea of just how powerful that commander is, and sometimes that happens. We come out to a game, we play, we go, oh, okay, that's too powerful. Get it? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't play
wanna
that
build
deck
a
the rest of
different
the
deck.
weekend because I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't want that to happen again.
Yeah, that happens
If
to
I
all
had been
of us.
sitting down to the high-powered table, then I might have brought it back out.
Yeah, that has happened to all of us where we've
And
sat
by the way,
down and
I
been
am
like,
not
oh,
the only degenerate out there because there was.
I know, you played with 3 others.
I'm not,
I gotta get to the friggin' shop.
but like there was a guy who was playing commander. I can't remember her name. It started with an M. The name of the commander. But it says on your turn, the creature has indestructible, and whenever this creature deals damage to another creature, any excess damage dealt means that the controller of that said creature has to sacrifice a permanent, not one for each damage. But
Yeah,
just-
I've seen that commander too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that card's pretty gross. That card, very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you build it right.
Yeah, and they did, and it was very good. And
Yeah.
somebody stopped them, but they still couldn't stop the deck because they rightly did not build around their commander. They
Right.
could do
Right.
other things. So
Yeah.
they did end up winning. But yeah, so that was just I felt awful. I was just like, I am really sorry. And we played in our game and it was fine. But
Yeah, that's happened to all of us. No big deal.
so let's talk about, how do you guys feel about the meme cards like the SpongeBob Secret Lair they're coming out? So these cards are based on SpongeBob memes.
No.
You don't care?
No.
Doesn't bother you?
I mean, it's stupid, but whatever. I mean, if they want to take time and resources and put them into this, I mean, that's their prerogative. And I mean, I guess this is like their first really weird thing that
No.
they've done.
No, it's not. They did the other meme cards, the goblin memes, I think.
Yeah. But those were reprints.
Yeah. But some people were annoyed about that. I don't know why you'd be annoyed about.
At
It
least
is-
the goblin ones are actually like goblins are in MTG. It's not like they're pulling like something out of their hat from nowhere, like SpongeBob. There's no SpongeBob in Magic the Gathering. Like that's my point.
I think people proxy cards. I mean, Duncan has a
Sure.
proxy deck. I think the problem I have with it is it is very jarring to go from like even Captain America in Magic, it fits or doesn't fit, whatever. But like SpongeBob is very jarring. Just the color scheme, the art style, the character, it just goes from somewhat serious to completely, absolutely silly very quickly. And
Right.
I don't know that I love it, but what I have to leave room for is there are people out there that do love it.
Right.
And so whatever, if this is
I
what
mean,
they enjoy, great.
Again, it's stupid, but you're allowed to like it.
Yeah, it's
So, and to be fair, they have not announced officially what the cards are,
Right.
and people are speculating. But my thing is, if people want SpongeBob cards, that's fine. If they do it, come out and they're meme cards, like they're not. It's almost like uncards as
Right.
a secret lair. If they're treated like uncards, that's fine. But I
Sure.
know they won't be
Yeah. No.
because people are not going to spend a lot of money on cards they can't play in their decks.
Right.
I mean, I just don't. It's sort of to me. It's like placemats. What are they called? That we all play on.
The playmat.
Playmats. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of it, but the playmats.
You were almost there. Place.
I know it's really hard. Words are hard. The playmats that people play with, sometimes they cause the same jarring effect for me. Like I've had times where I've sat down and it's basically nudity on a playmat.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look at that and I go, that's not in good taste. I really don't like that. And I've seen people with SpongeBob playmats, all kinds of different playmats, and it's okay. We're fine. No one's dying. It's the same thing for me. It's the immersion aspect of the game, and sometimes you have great immersion, sometimes you don't. You guys have talked about we all play D&D together. Sometimes we have great immersion, and sometimes people decide to change all the names of the characters to something silly and goofy, and it's not as
Are you
serious.
talking
and
about
the immersion
Tyrock Optimus Primal?
yeah. Tyrock Optimus Primal is a ridiculous name. So, I think it's okay. You would just live with it. Not my cup of tea, but if it's someone else's, great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't know. At least with like the goblin thing that they did, again, there's goblins in Magic. It's not like a far-fetched idea like, oh, we're going to kind of do a, little joke set about goblins. Okay, it makes sense. They're there. Even when you compare it to Assassin's Creed, Captain America, the Marvel stuff they're doing, and like some of these other things, you can at least make that art style look good and nice and realistic. You can't really do that with SpongeBob. It's just going to be a cartoon. They're going to look like proxies in my mind.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I can think of is it looks like someone literally is going to proxy a set, but then they're going to sell it as official Magic.
Well, I mean, I
product.
think there were people that argue that the Marvel cards look like proxies.
Yeah, and also
But
Doctor Who, where you have a random guy on a street, a transformer,
but there's
a transformer with the basketball hoop behind him. A lot of people are upset about that. Like, we've already done this.
Sure. So, but at least there's a realistic way to represent those cards, meaning the art can at least look good. Like, you can't really make SpongeBob art like look like anything more than SpongeBob
Then
art.
silly. It's going to look silly.
Right, exactly. That's
Yeah.
my point.
Well,
It's-
and I mean, I don't think that the secret layer art was what I was expecting for Marvel.
right, but it
Some of
wasn't.
that
It
art
wasn't
is
like
very-
because it was worse.
Right. Yeah.
It's because it was
just,
probably
it was just different.
Right.
Some of
Because
the
it wasn't
secret layer
the comic
art-
book artist doing it. It was the existing art.
Some of
Right.
the secret layer art's very silly, extremely silly, and some of it's hard to read, which I think sometimes is
I mean,
worse.
come on. But they've made Scapegoat as a card.
Yeah.
A literal card called Scapegoat in a normal Magic set. Or Holy Cow.
There is one called Holy
There's
Cow.
one called Holy Cow.
I mean, there's a new one called The
amazing.
Hand That Feeds. That's a hand that literally has a mouth on it that feeds. And then there is the Bedhead Monstrosity that has a bed on his head and is a giant monster from the Dustborn set. So
I mean, so we're already doing this. So I don't care.
they're punny
No big deal.
for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just why spend resources to do this? I mean, I don't know.
I
To me, it's
suppose
just
because people want it.
yeah,
it's
there are
just-
people very excited about the SpongeBob.
Why you do it?
cards.
Anime cards. There are people that love anime cards, and
I would argue that at least anime has a much bigger following than SpongeBob.
it does,
I
but
don't
it's
think
a
it does.
different genre.
I think you underestimate how much people watch anime. Then
I
if
think
you
it's a
that.
very different genre though than
So-
Magic, and it's okay.
I
It's
think
not
you're
a-
underestimating the Venn diagram of how many of those people also watch SpongeBob.
no.
He's probably right.
Um,
The Venn diagram does lean more towards anime people watching SpongeBob than many other styles.
But like even like the Final Fantasy thing that they put out, right? Like one of the guys we actually played D&D with, who's newer to our group, he's one of my longtime friends. He actually mentioned how like as soon as the art came out for like the poster art of Sarah, whatever the hell his name is, Seraphoth or whatever his name is, Sephiroth. That's how you say it. Sephiroth came out, like immediately people criticized it because it's wrong, and they're like, this is probably AI generated. Like someone probably just looked up Sephiroth art, him swinging a sword, and then they put it out there because it's so wrong on so many different levels. So there are like people who are true fans are going to be very critical of the art styles that you're going to see and everything like that. But still, at the very least, even with Final Fantasy, it's still easier to make that art style look good. So I mean, that's my big thing. I just feel like it's silly that they're spending time and resources on SpongeBob cards. Like whatever.
So Sloan wants them to look realistic. He wants a literal sponge with legs.
No, it's not. I just think it's stupid. Like, I don't know why we're doing this. I don't even know why this is a thing. Like,
Because
this is
people
ridiculous.
like it.
So
And that's
dumb.
what we're going to run into with the Universes Beyond now and the secret layers that are Universes Beyond is that you're going to
I think this
have-
mainly is Hasbro's fault, honestly. But
I don't think so. They had My Little Pony way back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
this
that
is
was an
not new.
unset. Again, that was not a real set. That was an unset.
Yeah, but
Like so, again,
started
like
there, dude.
like Duncan said, if they made this an unset, completely.
I mean, they
makes
put
sense.
Transformers in a standard set. Now, they weren't standard legal, but they were in a standard
and they
set.
look. Some of them look really stupid.
Yeah.
Like
But some look cool.
some looked cool.
But did they fit with Magic? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean, technically, you can
Doctor
explain
Who
away anything
was
in Magic.
Doctor Who was a lot of fun too, but like seeing some random just a guy.
Yep. Or the Gleep or whatever it was called.
It's like, okay, don't understand, but all right.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not condemning anybody that wants it, but I don't like it. I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be one of the ones that sell out.
I don't think it
No,
will
and I
either.
like Doctor Who.
And let's remind ourselves too, they did print Monty Python, the Holy Grail cards.
Yeah.
I can't see one. I have been denied owning one because they did not print enough of them.
That's the one we missed out on.
yeah.
Yeah. Doggone.
And by this point, probably people missed out on those Marvel ones too.
Oh, yeah,
recording
because by the
this-
time this
Yeah,
goes out.
By the time
comes
this
out.
one comes out, will have been 2 weeks before we're recording it before it comes out. But
Yeah. No, I don't care about SpongeBob. You
No.
could do it if you want to.
yep,
whatever.
we'll see what they actually come out with. but-
Live your life.
well, what does trigger you, Jeff?
Well, lots of things trigger me, but specifically, this one's a little bit more like, this is a little less silly. This is, I think people need to have a little bit of courage. They need to be a little bit braver. We were in the airport and these two, so you line up, you queue up at your zone, right? And there's like, 20 people in line at their zone waiting to get onto the plane. And we've all been waiting there a long time, right? You have to stand up to go wait there. And these two younger girls, probably in their 20s, came up and they cut right in front of my wife and I. Okay? Now, my wife at the moment has a broken arm. She's got the cast on. She had just happened during the hurricane. And, I'm not going to let some people just cut in front of us when we've been up there waiting. And especially for my wife, it's somewhat uncomfortable to even do that. And I said, excuse me, you need to go to the back of the line. And looked at me like I was crazy. And they were French. So one of the young ladies had something to say to me in French. And I just looked at her. I said, I don't care what you're saying. You need to go to the back of the line. All these people have been waiting. And it's not right to just come get in front of them. And she's like, why do you care so much and this and that? And I'm like, because in my head, and I'm not going to waste time on this young lady who obviously doesn't have any manners, there are social cues that hold the fabric of
Both
society
literal
together.
cues and
Yeah.
figurative cues.
But it holds the fabric of society together, and it requires manners and respect of your fellow human being. And when people choose to put themselves above respecting others, it all falls apart. You might go, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal because it starts there, and then it moves to all kinds of other areas. And so they said, well, you could get in front of us. And I was going to continue to fight for the people behind me. Like, no, you need to just go to the back. But I realized none of the rest of the people cared. They were fine with these two people just breaking all the rules and cutting them off, and they had no problem with it. So I was like, it's fine. She didn't cut us off. You got to fight your own battles. But you should. People should fight for that. That's not. You shouldn't just let people do that crap.
When you go to theme parks, it happens a lot too. Especially, I do Halloween Horror Nights a lot at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And you'll have people that like duck into the line like halfway up.
Yeah, we're
Or
all
they'll
part
pretend,
of the same
they'll
society.
pretend like they're going to meet up with their friends. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
excuse me, my friends are. There's no one else holding up their hand. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to get as far up as they
If
get.
you're in a restaurant or a Starbucks, this happened to me multiple times, and someone is yelling at someone else and just being rude, we're all part of the same culture, society. Step up, stop being a coward, and stop it. It's not okay.
Except that my argument would be you don't know why that person was yelling at them.
Well, if you don't know why, don't get involved. But if it's happening in Starbucks, it's not a very big place. You probably heard the whole conversation. You probably understand what's going on and why this person's being yelled at. And many times, inappropriately, I've seen parents with young kids be yelled at just because their kids are there.
Somewhere at this very moment,
Yeah.
there are two French young ladies
Yeah.
doing a podcast about how you don't understand that pretty white girls get to do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's true. That'll get us on another thing. You do not deserve. You do not deserve. Wait like everybody else. So that's what's aggravating me, and
Okay.
it actually aggravated
And
me.
maybe next week we'll get something that has to do with magic. Because that's
Probably not. Then.
No, he hasn't played Magic in like 4 months.
That's true. He doesn't.
I did actually play Magic with my kids the other day. It was really fun.
That's good. And I heard your son's favorite card is Omniscience.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about during the Foundations conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that doesn't do what you think it does. So we're going to talk about putting the commander back into the command zone. So when your commander would go to a graveyard or exile or your hand or your library, you may choose to, after it goes there, technically, move it to the command zone.
Right, so you will get a trigger from it going there if there's anything
now,
that
so
triggers
if it
off
would
that.
be shuffled into your library, technically you would shuffle it in first. But what you can do is put it in the command zone and just shuffle your deck and say, well, after I put it there.
Right.
And that does not use the stack. It is not interactable with. They cannot stop you from doing that.
Right.
However, this is the part where it doesn't do what you think it does. I have seen people who, let's say it went to the graveyard and you let it go to the graveyard. You do not move it to the command zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I go and I try and exile your graveyard. Now, so that's a bad example. Well,
Because
either way is a
you
bad
could use
example.
that example. It's going to get exiled, and then instead of putting it in
Right.
exile, put
But
it in my
they
command
want to
zone.
do it in response, and they cannot. Okay.
Right.
Right.
It does get exiled first. Then you can choose because it went to exile to move it to command zone. So it's
Right.
kind of a bad example. But my point is, you cannot later change your mind.
Right.
For
The
instance,
better
they
example
go
is-
to steal something out of your graveyard.
Right. That's
Yes.
a better example.
That's the big
That's a
thing.
better
And they go,
example.
okay, well, instead of stealing it, I'm going to move it to command zone. No, sorry, it's theirs.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's them stealing it is not one of the things that triggers you being able to move it to the command zone. It's only exile to the graveyard, to the library, to your hand.
Right. So you can't change your mind later. Now, there are times that people accidentally put it in their command zone, and I've had them say, hey, when there was that board wipe, I put it there. They're not doing it in response to something. They're saying, hey, I just realized my commander's in the
Yeah, be nice to people.
in
Yeah.
the graveyard. I didn't mean to. I meant to
Right.
put it. Then, that's fine. You usually will say, oh, go ahead.
Yep.
But if you were playing in a tournament setting or somewhere where you really felt strongly about it, you do have the right to say, no, I'm sorry.
Right.
You missed your trigger. That's where it is. That's up to you how you respond to it.
Right.
But you can't change your mind later. If let it go somewhere, that's where it is.
Yep.
So that's just kind of
And
that.
there are some reasons to do that. You may have pull from eternity, I think it's called.
Yep.
So you let it go to exile so you can bring it back from exile. You might have something that has recursion from the graveyard.
Eternal Witness.
It is a risk. Sometimes you'll have those cards that say it exiles until this card disappears. And you're like, I can take care of that card, so I'm okay with it in exile. But exile is a really scary place because if
It's
you
hard to get it back.
it's a big risk because if you can't kill that thing or they do something to where you can't, it's stuck.
Yeah, pretty
there
much unless
forever.
I'm playing that squee that you can cast out of exile, I am not leaving it in exile.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's a hard one. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you do the interaction wrong, but there are certain interactions actually where people can permanently exile your commander with he's the Rhino Soldier guy, the green, blue, white one, where like you tap him and then you can stifle his ability so it stays in exile. So there are some tricks like that. But yeah, for the most part, only when it moves there initially, that ability then ability is a hard word to call it, but that board state effect then triggers. And then in that moment, you have to make the decision. And then once you have decided not to, yes, it is.
And
it is where you decided.
Phasing is not. one of
Phasing
those.
does not.
So phasing,
yeah, correct.
you cannot choose to
Phasing
go
does
to the
not
command zone
trigger
either.
Right.
that board state.
And there are ways to permanently phase things out, which
There
is
are.
tough.
Yep.
Oubliette is a card which, in and of itself, as long as it's on the battlefield, I use it a lot on people's commanders because
Yep.
it takes them right out of the game. But you could phase something out and then later play cards that say permanents do not phase in. There are cards that do that.
Yeah, or just change what the card is another way to deal with their commander for a long time until they can kill it or do something.
Oh yeah,
with it.
Mr. Oko down there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a separate incident. But yeah, so it does go wherever it was going temporarily. It does hit that zone.
Right, which means any kind of death triggers or exile triggers will happen from your commander because technically, yes, it does go there.
Yes, and that is a change from I think 6 or so years ago.
Yeah, just
Before
about.
that, it did. You could have chose instead as a replacement effect. Now it's not a replacement effect; it is a board state action.
Right.
So, it does go to whatever zone, and then B, you can't change your mind at a later point.
Yeah.
So,
Unless it gets re-triggered. That's the only time you can do that. So,
but let's talk about the foundation set.
yeah.
So this foundation set is basically what they used to have as their core set. It's very much the same thing, but the rules are different. Not for Commander, except in that these core sets are going to stick around for 3 years. and then they'll come out with a new core set.
Mm-hmm.
But standard is changing drastically. Standard is moving to a 3-year window of their rotation. So when this foundation set phases out in 3 years, this old one will go away, but the previous 2 years of other sets will still be available.
Right.
So that I think that's huge for standard.
Yeah,
I think
well,
it's going to make
definitely.
standard much more viable, much more popular.
It's going to make it more like Commander, which I think is what their goal is, so that people play it more.
Right. Well, we'll make it not quite an eternal format, but something that's more stable.
3 years is a long time.
Yeah,
though.
it's stable.
I mean, that's honestly, I almost didn't get back into Magic because of standard switching so much. I was like, I'm not going to get into this game where it's cost too much.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I played Commander and realized it still costs a lot. But,
Yeah. Arguably much more.
but I get to keep my stuff. It's still usable. So
yeah.
it's
Right.
like,
Well,
It only
is
costs-
how's those mana crypts holding out?
yeah.
Shut up.
They're still in my decks. I still haven't gone
Well,
through my
that's
decks
because
yet.
you cheat.
It's because he doesn't play Magic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're
Well-
allowing your children to play illegally.
Yeah.
Breaking the
Yeah.
law. Breaking the law.
Yeah. We've
You-
been playing a lot of D&D lately, though.
Oh,
So,
okay.
You know, you go through different... With kids, they
So
go
you're
through...
playing the new rules of D&D then?
We are, yeah.
Okay. So you changed those rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Magic that you're.
Well, it's much easier to change those rules because they did it for him.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
All right.
Magic didn't come and take all the mana crypts out of his
Yes,
decks
that's
for him
true.
and
Yeah.
jeweled lotuses.
Well, we also have had a hurricane. I went to Europe for 10 days. I mean,
mean,
like, I haven't exactly had
I
time.
have excuses too. I have 10 times as many decks as you, and I got it done. So
Yeah.
anyway, but let's talk about Foundations. So there's going to be a lot of good reprints in this set,
Right.
and then some new stuff. And
Yeah.
when I first heard that they were going to make 3-year rotation, and that they were allowing in standard, and they were going to be allowing Universes Beyond sets to be in standard, I'm like, okay, well, this means they're going to print not very good stuff in these Foundation sets.
Right.
That's not true. Because the card we talked about, Omniscience, which does cost a lot of mana,
10.
but is very powerful,
It
is in
is.
here.
Yep.
So Jaden and I share a favorite card, because that is my favorite card.
He'll love to hear that. He'll be listening to this.
So way to go, Jaden. And I have to fight myself not to put it in any deck I have that is mono blue.
Really? You like
Yes,
it that
I
much?
like it that much. Well, the
Oh,
other
okay.
problem is in mono blue, there's not a lot of win cons.
Right. Omniscience is a pretty good win con because you just do Omniscience, Enter the Infinite, and then you pretty much win the game.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't even need Under the Infinite.
Yeah,
You just
it
have a good
helps.
stock of card. Time Stop is also in this, which is awesome. And the turn. Love that.
So it seems like there's a lot of blue love in this.
Oh, the
Actually,
love
blue
real.
is good. Green is good. I mean, all of them are good. The only one I've seen that I apologize, folks. We are looking at our phones because there's a lot of cards to look at here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the white cards, now, I don't play standard a lot. So I want to really leave room for the fact that I don't understand what is good in standard versus what is good in commander, right? But as a commander player, I do not see the cards that I would consider awesome.
So I
in
think
white here.
I think it is the one of the weaker colors in this set, but it does have the cards. It does have Authority of Consuls. It does have a Johnny's Pride Mate.
When is that good though?
When you have Authority of Consuls and you're gaining life whenever a creature comes in, your thing's getting a lot bigger. Healer's Hawk is very good early game. A 1/1 flyer with lifelink can get you
Yeah.
out ahead.
Which also goes with a Johnny's Pride Mate.
Yep. There's the board wipe. What was it called?
Oh, Day of Judgment.
Yeah,
Day of
but there's
Judgment.
only one. But it
Um,
is a good one.
So there's some stuff, but I do feel like it is probably the weakest of the.
But please let us know if you guys are out there and you're like, no, white's really powerful because it's lower on the curve and that's better in standard. Then yeah, sure, we'd love to know. Please let us know.
Yeah, it looks like white also was very creature heavy. Like almost every card in here is like a creature, it looks like, comparative to some of the other colors, which were more like spell based, I feel like.
Right.
So I feel like that might be part of it too, where white is going to be more your aggressive color, it seems like, for standard maybe, which is why they're so much more creature focused. And a lot of their creatures are, 2 drops, 1 drops, 1 drops.
I think
2
they have a lot
drops,
more
3
flying
drops.
than the other colors. In
Yeah, and so it looks like that might be why, because
And the other thing is too, they're balancing this by the other sets that they're putting out for standard.
Right.
So
that's
they
the other
may
thing.
feel like maybe they overpowered it in some sets, so they're underpowering it in this one. To
Yeah,
balance
so
it
they're
out.
giving
Completely
them less
possible.
of the reprints. Yeah.
I'd say the mythics are really good in this set. The mythics are really strong, fun. Some really fun mythics.
Yeah.
Solemn Simulacrum's getting reprinted.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really a lot of
Swiftfoot Boots is getting reprinted.
They got 1,000-Year Storm in there too. It's getting
Yeah.
reprinted as one of
which
those.
this should drop the prices of a lot of these cards.
Right.
A new Kindred card that people care about, Banner of Kinship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was from the one set.
Nice full art lands. I'm happy about that.
I would also say that just in general, the whole idea of it is I think they really did a good job with the thought processes here, which I'm really impressed to see that for them.
Yeah,
So-
and it looks like
Really
they're kind of sticking
good
with the theme of
idea.
like combat kind of push for
Yeah.
the format because they're reprinting Rogue's Passage, and then they're also reprinting Secluded Courtyard, which is another tribal staple for casting creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, Duncan, you're right. These full art lands these are awesome.
Oh my gosh, the white one with the Johnny on it, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. No, the lands are great.
Wow.
For multicolor commanders, they're reprinting Coma. We have
Yay.
Progenitus and Muldrotha are both reprinted.
Yeah, they're reprinting a lot of stuff.
Lathril, Consuming Aberration.
Yeah, when they're multicolored stuff that they're reprinting, a lot of it's actually pretty. It's like really good.
Yeah.
Well,
Thousand
and
Year
they're-
Storm. So Niv Mizzet Visionary. I want to talk about this one because this is what made me realize, oh no, they are not downpowering. They are definitely keeping the power there. So Niv Mizzet Visionary, flying, you have no maximum hand size. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you draw that many cards. Okay, and then in this set, let me go to my save pictures where I'm trying to find it here. There is, for a single red mana, there is, I didn't save it, so I do have to find, oh, there it is. Bolt Wave. Bolt Wave deals 3 damage to each opponent. So basically a 3 times lightning bolt for the same red mana. Now it is a sorcery, not an instant. But so for Niv Mizzet, even in a 2-player format, for 1 extra mana, you're going to draw 3 cards and deal 3 damage.
Right. And even Slag Storm, which gives you some choice, it's 3 mana instead of 1, but it allows you to do 3 damage to each creature, which in standard is pretty good. Or 3 damage to each player, which would also trigger off of that, right?
Yeah.
So that then is sort of like a board wipe on one side or just a card draw, depending on what you need.
Yep.
Which you're paying more, but you're getting options, which
Right.
is always good.
But so they're bringing back Llanowar Elves, they're bringing back Giant Growth, they're bringing back, that's what last episode I said Wild Growth, and that was wrong. Wild Growth is for the land.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I think
the
you meant
enchantment.
Berserk. Did you mean Berserk?
No, I meant Giant Growth.
Titanic
Giant
Growth is the
Growth.
one you meant.
I meant
Titan-
Giant Growth. I said +3/+3, so it's
Okay.
Giant Growth.
Yeah, Titanic Growth I think is +4/+4.
But anyway,
Dude, green is going to be amazing.
green is always, green's always
I don't know
fun.
if it's always that good in standard.
Maybe.
But then again, I also don't know what I'm talking
Grow
about
from the
because I'm
ashes.
a commander player.
Yeah, and you're a green player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what did you say it was? Slag Storm was the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Was the I mean, so it's 3 red sorcery, but deals 3 damage to each player.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, there's, I think it's nice that they're trying to come up with a way for standard to be a more long-term format in regards to what you can take from. I think that's good for the format because, again, one of the hardest things that was always with standard was you had to like buy new cards like every 2 months.
And 4 of them. Like,
yeah,
if it's
and
an
4 of
expensive
them.
card
Yeah,
that's
it's-
$25, $100
and it's
for
only
one
good
card.
for 3 months.
Atali Primal Storm.
Oh yeah, there's look. You guys just go through this. There's tons
Cranko
of
Mob
bangers
Boss.
in
No,
here.
Cranko. We're going to see Cranko back.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the standard scene, that's gonna be crazy.
You know?
He hasn't been reprinted in a while.
It's
Nope.
gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, that's gonna drop Cranko down because isn't he like $10 something like that?
I don't know how they're going to give the format. They're going to have to work really hard to give the format different flavor with this because inevitably what happens is some of these cards become like the most popular cards. You just see them a lot. So I'm not sure how they're going to do that.
Well, I think the way they do it is so, like Duncan was saying, so the Foundations format, this set will stick for 3 years. Well, every additional expansion they come out with it for it will change kind of what will be popular, right?
Yeah.
Because like this one would be like, okay,
Hopefully.
the green and blue is better, so they might stick
And
with
if they do this,
but it still doesn't reset for 3 years, right?
Just the
All the
Foundations
cards.
doesn't. Just the Foundations
there's always
doesn't.
3 years worth of cards, including a foundation set.
Right.
So next year, the set from 3 years ago now will drop off.
So just as a point, let's say a set comes out and there's Oko in it, right? Okay, let's just say. So Oko's there, and he's going to be there unless he gets banned for 3 years.
Yes.
Correct.
You're right. So what I'm saying is, how are they going to deal with that? It's going
Because
to be very interesting.
one of the sets
I
that
don't
come
know how
out
they're
with the
gonna deal
next year might be a great anti-planeswalker.
But you
Or
also
it
have
might
to,
be-
we talked
and-
about this before the broadcast. Oko costs 3 mana.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I mean,
just
4
using-
mana is at the top of the mana curve for most cards.
I'm
you're
just
gonna play
using that
in
as an example. It could be a
Yeah.
one
Right.
drop that becomes a problem. It could
Yeah.
be Orcish Bowmasters. It could be like I don't know, the One Ring, whatever it is that
Yeah.
comes out
Right.
that people love and put in every single deck. They're either going to have to ban it or I don't know. It's going to be interesting to
But
see
I
how
mean,
they do this.
other cards I forgot to talk about. Now, again, I'm very blue stands out to me. So, but Imprison the Moon's back.
yeah,
Yep.
that's a good
That's
one.
awesome. Aetherize is back.
Say take care of Oko.
Yeah,
Prison Moon.
Yep. An
Yeah.
offer you can't refuse,
But
which
you have
I don't
3
think
of
is
them.
that great. But
3 more.
I mean,
in
that's
your
a.
deck.
I mean, for what is it? A 1-drop counter, right?
yeah.
I mean, for
But
a
you
1-drop.
give them 2 treasure tokens.
Sure, but a lot of
That's
times
very
when I'm
dangerous.
keeping you from putting out might be worth me giving
Except
you.
for they have 4 of them.
Yeah, they can.
It's only some of them. If it's legendary, you only have 2,
Yeah, but still,
which is what planeswalkers are.
a lot more likely they have.
I mean,
it.
I would give you 2 treasures and counter Oko all day.
Oko. The point wasn't Oko. The point was whatever card that people start putting in every deck.
Well, but I'm just saying to Duncan, like I'm okay with giving you 2 mana if it means I'm countering something that could potentially wreck my
Right.
my game.
Mocking Sprites back to reduce your instants and sorceries.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the idea of all right, we're gonna do a reprint with some new stuff, but mainly reprints, and we're gonna have this set for 3 years, and we're only gonna make this one. I think that's a good idea. I do think that could help Standard because you always know I always have these cards as fillers basically, and I will always have these cards to kind of use as. So I could very easily see like people who are like big Standard players going out and buying 2 boxes of this.
Oh yeah.
I think you probably have to.
I mean, Exsanguinate. That's a great black card.
That's a game
Reassembling
card.
Skeleton is used in a lot of combos.
Yeah, that's in my
I think it's it's
Schmiegel
good
deck.
stuff.
Phyrexian Arena.
yeah.
I mean, a
A
lot
lot
of
of
these
people
cards.
hate that card. I love that card.
That's a great card for black, for draw,
Yeah.
for consistent draw. That's
lot of people
fantastic.
don't like
very
it.
on
I think it's
theme.
great.
I'm gonna pay a life to draw a card.
Painful Quandary. I love that card. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good cards in here.
I would again. I think white looks weaker in retrospect because it's more creature oriented. It looks like for the reprints, but again, in Standard, that's usually what white is. White is more creature centered than it is anything else. So I think that's probably why, specifically to probably Jeff and then followed by Duncan, it looks a little weaker because they don't play creatures. They don't.
Well, and there's nothing as flashy.
Yeah, there's
is what
nothing
we're
really
saying.
flashy in there. It's,
Yeah.
it's got a couple.
I mean,
of good
compared
things.
to Gulta, what have you got in white to combat this Gulta I'm about to drop?
Yeah, yeah. And Gult is easy to drop sometimes, depending on what's already on the battlefield.
I got a 1-drop 1/1 that has lifelink.
Yeah, and it's flying, so you can't block it.
Yeah, that's right.
So there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's great. We'll see how white comes out. If white ends up being the redheaded stepchild of the meta,
Hope not.
but it won't. It's not going to affect Commander. For Commander, there's a lot of great reprints in this.
Yeah.
Which
doubling season is my one
Oh,
that I
yeah.
love. I'm not gonna go get it though because I already have like 6 of them. But
it will help
I do
at
love
least.
the card.
Hopefully, it will help pull the cost down a little bit.
I'm getting it.
Hopefully, it will help
Getting
pull the cost
more?
down a little bit
Oh yeah, I'm buying some of this.
Okay.
and make some of those cards that we use for Commander that are kind of Commander staples. Hopefully, it'll make them a little bit more reasonable in pricing.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
I think doubling season's sitting around like $30-$40 still.
What
Yeah.
set comes out? Is this a set that comes out right before Christmas? Is
This
this
is the
the
one
first
that
one?
cuts out in a couple weeks.
So
November
what
15th.
is there another one that comes out after this or no?
Not this year.
Okay. So
This
then
is
I'm
the
just
12th
gonna,
set of the year.
yeah. I'm probably not gonna buy this one, but I will be buying the Secret Lair.
And by the way, on the timeline they released in MagicCon they only released the first 6 months, 6 sets. So it'll be
in
12
6 months.
in 6 months. So it'll be 12 sets again next year. There was 12 sets last year, 12 sets this year,
That's
12 sets next
that's
year.
annoying. Well, that's fine. I'll just buy the ones I want, and not
Yeah.
buy the others.
Yeah, well, you
And then
don't
we
play
get to
anyway,
listen to
so-
him complain about buying the one that he did buy. He didn't get anything out of it he wanted.
Yeah.
Wow, I've done okay.
He won't buy boxes. He's
I
learned his lesson.
probably won't buy boxes anymore.
You keep
He
saying
probably-
that.
he won't commit.
Every year
He won't commit.
say
He
that,
can't
and then
do
you
it.
always
'Cause it's
end
so
up
much
buying-
fun to open a
he has a
box.
little bit of this too.
He
Yeah,
does
it's
got a
so
little
much
bit.
fun to open a box
Yeah.
until you put them through the thing and find out they're not worth anything.
Oh man.
But here's the thing: don't worry about that. Just look at what
I
that's
shouldn't
cool.
because I don't sell my cards anyways.
Right.
But
Don't look for like
Yeah,
I do worry about
that's what's so. Can we do what's an aggravating, Sloan? It's so aggravating to listen to you get upset about not getting the value out of your box, but then you don't actually sell your cards, so it doesn't matter. You're like, oh, I
don't
didn't get
even
any
play
value. Out. Yeah. I didn't get it. I didn't get any value back, man. I
See,
lost like $100.
now,
Are you gonna? Were you selling them? No, I wasn't gonna sell them. I'm just saying.
while I was
cares?
gone having the time of my life, you guys didn't get to make fun of me at all.
Oh, no, we
totally
made fun
did.
of you.
You obviously
Oh,
have not.
yeah,
listened
you
to
did not
those
listen.
Well, I did listen to some where you guys did specifically say you would make fun of me because I was gone. Yes.
Yeah.
I think Duncan said that.
But yeah, no, it's. I mean, I do think.
Oh, and then
It'll
you
be
said
good.
I take too long at D&D or I play on my phone or something, which I am not the main culprit. By the
No,
way,
not
of
the
that.
main, but you do.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah,
I
true.
don't.
I said that too. Those are words that came out of my mouth. But overall, I think this is a great set. It's great for Commander. It's really good for Standard. The changes that are coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna make Standard more viable, more relevant. I think it'll bring people back to Standard as long
Agreed.
as they don't change their mind again, which they do all the time.
It's their game. They can do whatever they want.
You know, Sloan, you got any pro tips this week?
So last week we kind of talked about some of the new terminology that was coming out with the Marvel stuff. Touch bases on a couple of those. There was another term that I wanted to go over because it's one that's a little more complicated, and I might have lost
You
it.
lost it,
I
didn't
might
you?
have lost it. Yeah, I didn't because I didn't write it down.
Well-
But what I will talk about, because you talked about this, is the commander moving zones, right? So we talked about how it's not technically a triggered ability, but it is a triggered ability that doesn't really
It's
use.
a board state, but
It's a board state that gets
but in
triggered.
your mind, it's a trigger.
Yeah, that gets triggered based off of your commander going to certain areas. So, going over the board state stuff, some of the things that are important to remember is, like we talked about, phasing, for example, when your creature goes out and it doesn't actually leave the battlefield, but it does leave the battlefield. It just technically doesn't exist. One of the key things about that is compared to a creature dying and then compared to a creature being exiled. If you have attachments, artifact equipments on those creatures, it being phased out, it goes with that creature.
Including tokens.
Yep. They go with it. So when you're let's say it's your commander, we're doing a Voltron deck, you got equipments on it, like Captain America, that's coming out, right? He gets phased. Those equipments go with him. They do not stay on the field because they are technically attached to him. The way phasing works is everything attached to him phases. If he were to get exiled, they do not go with him. They get to stay, and he gets exiled. If he dies, again, specifically for equipment, they stay, and he goes to the graveyard. Auras, on the other hand, if your creature with auras on it gets exiled, the auras gets exiled. If the creature with auras on it dies, he dies. So when you're looking at removing a problem, if it's a creature you're looking to remove and he has equipments on it, remember, the equipment's not going to go with him. The equipment's get to stay. So if the equipment's the problem, make sure you have a way to deal with the equipment, or he's just going to put something back out and put the equipment right back on it.
Right.
For example, when we talked about the Captain America thing, we talked about Mjolnir and Excalibur. They are going to be the problems. Captain America, sure, he allows them to be used, but they are ultimately the problems, and killing him is not going to get rid of those. They will continually stay.
Right. And
So-
with that, we have mentioned before, but just so people are clear, phasing, a creature does not leave the battlefield when it phases, nor does it enter the battlefield when it comes in.
It just ceases to exist as if it was
Right. And then it's
never
just-
there. And then it just ceases, and then it then exists again.
Yeah.
It's a very weird. So Just remember, whenever you're removing creatures and stuff like that, if they have artifacts on them, the artifacts do not go. They get to stay. The auras, if you kill or exile, will be killed or exiled with the creature because
But they won't be exiled. They'll just die, fall off, and go to the graveyard.
Right.
yeah,
They don't
they
get
will.
exiled.
They will get they will get sent to the graveyard. They will go away too. So, but that the difference between artifacts and equipments when you're talking about artifact equipments and auras when you're talking about on creatures, just remember removing the creature with artifacts equipments doesn't remove the equipments. With the auras, it will remove the.
And
auras.
then we will further complicate it by bringing up creatures that have reconfigured that then become artifacts.
Yeah, that's super fun too.
Yeah, because then those drop off and become their own creature.
Then they
again.
become a creature again. Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones that have reconfigure on them.
Yeah, just
So-
to make things super easy to understand.
Yeah, super duper easy, straightforward, nothing complicated. So just make sure with this new with these new Marvel commanders you're seeing out there, specifically Iron Man and Captain America that deal with artifact equipments and artifacts a lot. Remember, you want to kill the equipment probably over the creature, so make sure you have some equipment removal.
And speaking of triggers, you've probably triggered people by mentioning those because, as we stated at this point, probably there's lots of people that didn't get it.
You're an adult, get over it.
Wow.
All right. With that note, Duncan,
So if you would like to respond to that, you can email him at sloan@commanderspod.com.
You can.
You can. So I want to, that's all the time we got for today. But I want to thank Jack May at Info Pilgrims for producing and editing. I want to thank our listeners. You can always check us out at commanderspod.com. You can email us. We'd love to hear from you at cast@commanderspod.com. As I did state, you can also target sloan@commanderspod.com.
Bring it.
Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Support us if you would be so inclined. Patreon.com/commanderspod. Check out our YouTube, CommandersPod. And above all else, if you forget everything else, just remember, kill Andrew first.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way in the world of EDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's draw and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave a mark.